Welcome everybody to the October 2024 Siteglide Town Hall. We were just discussing it's been a little while since the last one back in July. Hope everybody's had a good few months and busy summer in the Northern Hemisphere at least. So we've been working away pretty flat out on quite a few different things and wanted to provide an update, discuss a few other things, and also get your feedback as usual and ideas on anything else. So I will quickly show the agenda. So we've got some, if you haven't seen any of our updates, I'm going to try and show them very quickly, and then we can go into any details. But we have an AI tool built into our rich text editor that I'll show off quickly. Might be useful for end clients, things like writing blog posts, that kind of stuff. We've got a new integrations feature as part of the automations feature. I'm going to think about the wording of that one because it's a little bit hard to say and differentiate, but we'll look at that. Also, the new docs are live. That's been a pretty big initiative to try and improve. We had quite a lot of docs all over the place and brought it all together and hopefully improve them, or keep improving them as well. Next up will be a quick look at site builder updates. You might have noticed some frequent updates there. We're releasing things weekly at the moment, I would say, in terms of new layouts, new functionality, and lots more ideas there, which should be great to get your feedback on. And then obviously open floor, one more little topic in there as well, but I'll quickly fly through it. I think normally we do everything step by step, but just for anybody who wanted to watch the recording and get a quick idea, I'll just fly through them and then we'll go off and look at demos and go into them in detail. So wanted to start with the roadmap for Q4. I guess firstly, the bad news, it's not really bad news, but we showed you this back in July and wanted this to be the roadmap for Q3 and Q4. And we essentially had to switch to some sort of underlying improvements, updates, which allowed us to do number 6. So to do the Zapier integration properly and fix some of the issues that we noticed with Zapier, we wanted to completely rebuild the API. And we also took the opportunity to make some important admin updates, which would help us do the rest of the items. So the API used to run, well, Zapier used to run off our API, which obviously runs a lot of the product. And it wasn't the right way to do it. And it meant that there's just too much going through one channel effectively. So we've completely rebuilt the API to run off each site. So huge benefits of that, including being able to basically build your own API or customize the API on top. So you'll be able to access the API on the site and extend it and do a lot more with it really. And all of our new work will run off that. So the Zapier integration will run off the site API, and also the new integrations feature that I'm about to demo runs off the site API as well. So a pretty huge amount of underlying work there. The other one was actually updating the whole of admin to use some of the latest things such as Node and some other bits. So that allowed us to improve the rich text editor and bring in the AI tools, which I'll show you as well. So while that feature wasn't necessarily on the roadmap, it was a nice thing that we can add based on an update we needed to do. So to really finish these tasks and get all of the new functionality in, we had to get the admin updated to where we wanted it to be. So yeah, hopefully that explains where the summer's gone. It's been pretty busy. There's been a lot going on, and just to clarify that our focus is still very much on these. I think when we had those meetings, probably back in July and maybe June, maybe even a bit before that, we sort of started to notice that some of the more urgent things were happening less, which was great. And we had some very clear direction on you guys that we discussed from the very beginning of the year. So we're very, very focused on these things. We know that they're the most important from the discussions we've had. And yeah, we're working through these. Some are more in progress than others, but we'll keep you updated throughout the remainder of the year. Yeah, I think that hopefully covers everything. We can go into more detail on roadmap later if anybody wants to. Next up quickly, just so people can get a quick preview if they don't have time to watch the full recording. Yes, so we've introduced an AI tool as part of the rich text editor. It's probably the first kind of AI tool of many. We'd like to bring AI in the right places, obviously not as a gimmick, as something that's actually useful to either your workflow or your customers' workflow. So this tool is part of the rich text editor, which you would see in any module or web app where you've got a multi-line text field and you turn the rich text editor on. So what you can then do is either select some text or quickly write something, and it could write a whole blog post for you. It could improve the wording, as you see here, fix any mistakes, make it shorter, make it longer, write a sentence from it, change the tone, or translate. Pretty useful features there, depending on what you're trying to do. I've given it a go to write a few blog posts, and obviously it's Chat GPT. That's what it is behind the scenes. So it's probably what you're used to in separate tools, but it's nice to bring it into the admin, and especially being able to write something like a blog post. I think it's quite handy to have it in the tool. So we'll look at a demo on that shortly. Next up, we have the Automations V2 feature. So this, again, based on the API updates, we've been able to add this to automations. For anybody who hasn't really used automations, it's probably one of the most powerful features of the platform in terms of working with data, working with other tools, working with like workflows and things like that. But it did mean until now that you had to do everything yourself. You'd have to maybe connect to a third party using the custom feature or using API calls, or you could just send out emails. So now what you'd be able to do is connect up to lots and lots of different integrations like Zapier allows for, essentially, but within the product and within specifically a certain feature that you're looking at. So in this picture here, we're looking at the gallery web app that's been made. It's a custom gallery, and being able to put an automation on that specific web app, which is really powerful. That would allow you to then do things like really targeted workflows. So if somebody updates an item front end or back end or whatever it might be, then do this. And we'll look at that demo in a second. Next up, yeah, as I mentioned, we've launched our new docs site. Really tried to make it a lot more accessible, a lot simpler in terms of getting started with things, and we're going to go through more of the detailed documents next. So we pulled over a lot of the old docs, and some of them still need improving, but the general navigation, the getting started of each section, I think you'll find hopefully a big improvement. Any feedback would be very welcome. And we do have the AI search tool in there as well. So if you search, you can kind of ask it a question and it will answer it in the search rather than take you off to separate documents. Again, we'll have a quick look at that. Site Builder, we probably won't spend too much time on this. It's just more just to let you know, if you haven't seen, that there's some big improvements and releases. We've been going through and adding all the e-commerce layouts at the moment. So I think it will be a really big improvement and update on if you're building e-commerce sites using Flowbyte or Tailwind. There's a lot of functionality that we're building in, and a lot of nice new layouts. The Flowbyte team have done a great job this year of releasing some really nice e-commerce designs and layouts, and we're trying to get them built in with the functionality as well. Lots of ideas on what we can do there. We'll talk about it more, but things like building out pre-built pages, more modules, more layouts for modules, that kind of stuff, as well as some themes and maybe styling, having some default styling for Flowbyte so it can look completely different. And then lastly, we don't often talk about industry news, but this one seems to be talked about everywhere at the moment. If you're not aware, there's been a lot of discussion in the sort of WordPress community and world about a bit of an issue with between sort of who runs WordPress, the open source side of things, and WP Engine, one of the biggest users of it, or platforms or services on top. And yeah, to the point where they got banned from using it, which meant apparently, this is from TechCrunch, a whole load of sites broke and they weren't able to update their themes or their plugins and that kind of stuff. I'm not the expert on this. I'm just it'll be a community a discussion point maybe later in the call. I think the main point to mention there is if you end up speaking to customers who are have a site on WordPress and found they've had some issues, just to be aware of all of this and potentially being able to help bring their site across to Siteglide. We do have a WordPress import tool that's in coincidental timing, but we are sort of testing out at the moment. It would be great to get more example sites to run through there. So if you do know of anybody who's stuck, then more than happy to help. I think that's everything. And then we'd obviously come to open floor and community discussion. So there's quite a bit there. I'll go all the way back to the AI tool quickly and just do a quick demo of that. Any questions before we get started? Obviously, we can go into those topics in more detail. Cool. So AI tool wise, let's jump to the right one. So I'm going to be using this is still the sort of testing version. We've got some beta testers working sort of running through this for us. Thank you to anybody who has given it a go. Both features are in this beta version, and we had hoped to get it out into production today. For today. I think it's going to be the next couple of days more realistically. There's just a few things we want to improve, but you'll see the sort of where we're at with it now and that it's basically ready to go. So two things we're going to look at within this beta version is the AI tool and the integrations feature. So as part of the AI tool, we're going to use the blog module. If you go, let's just leave that. Let's just go to the blog, go into a blog post, and then scroll down. The content field is a rich text field. Obviously, you can totally customize what fields you have and how many rich text fields you have, but this is just the default. So in here, we can type anything really, and then ask the AI tool to do something with it. So one I tested earlier was how AI can help write blog posts. Not very imaginative, but if you select that and then click the drop down, you could say, make it more detailed, complete the sentence. I think for this one, we'll do make it more detailed. So it's going to write essentially a whole blog post about using AI to write blog posts. You'll notice it's also doing sort of markdown formatting. So it's putting the formatting on there. And obviously, sometimes it will answer you as well. So you might want to remove that. But so we've got that there. We can give that a name of how AI helps write blog posts. Obviously, you could write the name and then type that into the content and save you writing it twice. And then if we preview that, what have I done there? Not sure why the formatting wasn't loading on that one. I've probably got something wrong with the template, but obviously mainly showing off the AI tool in this demo. So yeah, there might be, you might want to then say, let's translate this into French. And you could then make it shorter. There's lots of tools in here. I think it'd be worth having a play around with it and letting us know your thoughts. Has anybody used it much? Any feedback or questions?
Didn't even know it was there as a thing.
I was just
missed
about to
that
say,
entirely.
I was a little bit covert about this one, to be honest, because we were, I wanted to mainly focus on the integrations one. So it is there and it will be in production very soon. Yeah.
Are there any plans to have a markdown to HTML converter or?
Good question. I'm not sure why it hasn't worked in this demo, but it was writing markdown and it was converting that into a bold tag, for example. So we'll have to double check whether that's part of the process or not. So do you mean you being able to write markdown and it sort of switch to HTML?
Well, yeah. So I guess if you entered like if this is markdown here,
Yeah.
It's got markdown comments or
Yeah.
elements to it. And although that's supposed to be a H2, isn't it, with 2 stars? Oh no, it's double crosshatch, isn't it? It's 2 stars. Sorry, double
I think that's
crosshatch
just bold.
is H2. Yeah, that's bold. Yeah, okay.
I've definitely done demos with this where it would make that just a really nice bold title. But yes, we'll look into whether Markdown can work out of the box. This is
I might be able to answer
go for it, Matt.
a little bit. I think the way, so on Platform OS, you can set up a page to be all Markdown, and it will, out of the box, convert that to HTML for you when that page is loaded. But because this particular rich text editor is only part of a page, we're not able to hook into that engine. So I think what this is doing is on the fly, as you're writing your Markdown, it's converting it and it saves it as HTML, I think. But again, we'll need to just double check that that is working. But yeah, if you have a whole page, I can share you the YAML change in CLI that you need to convert the whole page. It's quite simple.
Yeah, okay.
So that did work
Yeah,
that time. I just typed in some AI tools and let's just see what that does. I still think there might be some formatting. Okay, it did load. Before I refresh, you'll see it was bold, but yeah, so we'll look into that and what it can do heading wise. But it should have worked first time with the with Markdown.
And are you using ChatGPT or are you using another?
Yes, this is using ChatGPT at the moment. We're
Because it's
probably
recently
going to
changed to outputting Markdown rather than what wasn't doing that before.
okay. Do you know how recently?
Oh, the last month, I guess.
Interesting. It could be linked to that. We're looking at how best to go about this because this is using a fairly basic, one of the cheaper models. So, and we want people to be able to control how you use it. So we'd probably let you hook it up to your own ChatGPT account, API, open API account. It's probably the easiest way of doing things. But we'll also have a service as well for it.
Yeah.
Any other questions or ideas for it?
Will it be available in all of the rich text editors?
Yeah, this rich text editor is the new version that we've updated to, and it will be available. Yeah. We don't have a way to turn it off at the moment, so if anybody thinks they would want it turned off, we'll look into that. Obviously, it's a new feature that we're wanting to get out there for you guys to use. One other thing to mention is we've got image generation as well. Again, that would probably be that'll be a separate button at some point, but being able to drop in or generate an image and drop that in. Probably also being able to upload it to File Manager. So this connects nicely to the next feature, which is the integration tools as part of automations. So I set up an automation earlier. This is the new UI for it. Someone did mention in one of the, so we've got a roadmap for this now. So essentially, there's a whole load of integrations that you can use, and if there's one missing or it doesn't do what you want it to do, on the roadmap we've got an area called integrations. So if you just go to the roadmap, there's this new section called integrations, and you can add any new items here. And we did have a question about using that. So just make sure. Well, the latest version kind of overcomes that problem, I think. So just jumping back to here. So the new UI essentially is now tabs at the top where you would pick the different type of automation that you want to do. So these three are all the same as before. Literally nothing's changed apart from the UI where you can create, you pick your trigger and you create one of the automations as normal. The new bit is the integrations tab. So the difference here is that we've, with a partner, we've got it so that it can hook up to a whole range of different tools. So At the moment, we've only got the one trigger, which is admin item update, but you'll be able to hook it up to all of these tools in the list. So an obvious one that I'll show you a demo of is Google Sheets, but you might want to hook it up to HubSpot, let's say, for a CRM, MailChimp for sending people to the MailChimp list of subscribers, all sorts of things you can do with this, including OpenAI directly. Yeah, the list goes on. And obviously, if something's missing, we'll just add it to the roadmap. We'll help get that added. Stripe's another useful one. So using my example that I made earlier, I created one that goes from admin item update, that's the only trigger we have at the moment, and would push that to a Google Sheet where it would add and update a row, connected my account, I pick which sheet I want to use, and then here, this is where you map the data a bit like you would in Zapier. So you've got a list of all the different fields from the from the web app itself or the module. So that's already been set up, and I thought I would have that set up so we can also see it running based on some changes. So that's based on any changes to a blog item. And we've just been playing around with the blog. So if I jump across to my Google Sheet, you'll now see that it's dropped those items in. So I've chosen to put the content field in just to prove it bringing across the AI generated content and link the two features together. There's so many different use cases for these integration tools. I think one big thing to notice straight away with what I've done here is we've got the same blog post coming in multiple times. Now, that might be something you want to do because you might be trying to do a log of changes for some reason. But what you might want to do in this example, and let's try this live as a test, is change it so that you only update an existing row rather than add them every time. So let's say column 1 is the one that it's looking for, and then there let's put the ID as the reference point. So if we do that, we should find that it will only update an existing item. So if we now go and change, sorry, let's just save this. And then we go and edit that blog post. To a field that we're already using actually, so. So it's now put another one in because we didn't have an ID before, but we've got an ID of 42. If we now go back to here and then make another change, you see it's just added it to that field. So it's a very basic example, but there's a lot of things that you can do to set it up how you need it to. There's so many different use cases. I'm not even really sure what people will end up using this for. So I think this is going to be an ongoing thing. As I mentioned, at the moment, it's only on admin item update on modules and web apps, I believe. John, you asked me earlier whether it's on forms. So
yeah, just
basically,
primarily because form cases are going to be, and e-commerce orders are things that are going to need mostly to disappear out of the site.
So anywhere that has the automations tab is where it will be. We just need to get that set up. Well, yeah, that's what you experience. So we haven't got it set up yet on forms. Yeah. So if you go to web apps or modules at the moment, it would work. We will get that updated so that it's anywhere you would see the automations tab. And then obviously we'll also do it so that it handles any of the current triggers, Siteglide triggers. So if you go to custom, for example, any of these ones, the triggers here, sorry, let's go to custom because there's more. Well, we've got admin item create, admin item update, admin item delete. You should also have some front end ones that appear sometimes. I'm just trying to think when. So any of the triggers that we've already got, we'll make sure that those are available for integrations as well. So you should find that you're able to do everything that you've been able to do with the automations before, but with the new integrations feature.
I was just thinking, Luke, about that use case with Google Sheets. If you did want to record all of the changes, and you updated each row based on the ID, would it and if you right click and do edit history, it would be able to see the changes within that one row? So that would be
Sorry,
quite a good
Matt,
way
I
to
lost
back.
you then.
If you go back to your Google Sheets and click on the last, right click on the last row, and do edit history on maybe one of the cells, like the content. Yeah, so if you did want to back up your data, that would be quite a nice way of you could do it you could update the rows instead of doing a row per blog post, and you could see
Exactly,
the changes there. It's quite nice.
That's a really good idea, actually. Yeah. You hopefully shouldn't need to do these kind of backups of data, especially with the GitHub approach that we've got, but might not hurt. Might be
It's
certain reasons why you want to.
quite good if your client is updating content and they want to go back to it, something like that.
Yeah. So I'm just seeing comments. Yeah, Matt said adding more triggers and locations forms e-commerce is the easy bit. We just needed to do the proof of concept first. Yeah, we just wanted to get it fully working with one setup. We really spent quite a bit of time on the UI, trying to get the UI right for it, matching it to the existing types of automations as well as a completely different type. So you should find that's fairly user friendly, hopefully. But any feedback, very welcome.
What about incoming? So say
Yes. So on integrations, we will soon make Siteglide actions as well as triggers. So then effectively you would set your trigger as one of the apps and the action as Siteglide.
I'm thinking of things like testimonials from Google My Business and you know things like that. So as soon as a new one gets put up, it gets dragged automatically into the testimonials module, populates, and saves us having a third-party integration for that kind of thing. And also sending out blog posts automatically to Google My Business as well to save us a job of. So you post it in one place, it automatically posts it on somebody's Google account.
Yeah, definitely. And I think social media is a good example
social media,
as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And probably even MailChimp, those kind of features. If somebody's subscribed via a different source, then you can get them back into the CRM if needed as well. So
yeah,
the list goes on in terms of what it could be used for. I think we really do need feedback from you guys on what ideas there are. Obviously, just give us as much warning as you can. From the integration perspective, we're working with a third party called Rollout who handle the actual integrations. So if you say to us we need X tomorrow, we aren't in control of that, unfortunately. So put them on the roadmap as early as you possibly can, and they have access to this, and we'll work with them to discuss priorities as well.
We've already got a couple of ideas. We'll put those on in a bit.
Great. Yeah, I think this is one that's just going to keep evolving, really. We knew automations was really powerful, but asking you to have to create an API call to every platform out there is just, it's not the right way to do it. We'd rather do it once and let everybody leverage it. Good. Yeah, so it was an unexpected feature for the summer versus the roadmap, but hopefully a really, really powerful one, and we'll still get back onto everything else that we've discussed. In terms of the API, if anybody's interested, that the new version will be officially released very soon. That brings me on, I guess, to docs. It's probably a good discussion now. So if we just go to the new docs. Sorry, does anybody have any more questions on automations at all or integrations?
So the custom, sorry, Ross. Oh, sorry, Steve. Sorry.
I was going to ask if there's any thought of doing it on time-based rather than action or event triggers. So as something I'm thinking about is events to update them once they've happened and automatically, a little bit like cron services you used to get with updating MySQL and stuff like that.
I think you'll find that you'll be able to do a lot of it based on some kind of event anyway, because you could have it so that the expiry date controls that, I think. But so alongside having integrations as part of the feature that you're in, so a web app or a module, we're also looking at adding it into the integrations area of site manager. So like we have Zapier here at the moment, I'm thinking we'll probably have an integrations page where you could create any kind of you could basically create one of these. So yes, there might be ways that it can actually work on polling, which is what it's looking out for. I don't know whether it could out of the box work on time as an example, but yeah, definitely something to look into. I think for now it'd be worth exploring whether you can do that via some form of item update.
Information, yeah.
We have a few websites where we need a cron job, and it's strangely it's not built into Platform OS. I'm sure there's a back end reason why that is. But what we do is we actually have a free website which we use. I think it's just cronjob.org, which you say how often you want to ping the site, maybe every day, maybe every hour, and all it does is just sends a single request to a page, and then that page runs its liquid and does the timed API call. So while these things don't join up really nicely yet, it is that is maybe a route if you needed to do something sooner. But we can also ask Platform OS if they could introduce some kind of timed scheduling.
Cool.
And Rox has said that you guys use Azure functions to schedule tasks. So yeah, so I guess at the moment the answer is a third party, but there's a great example, Steve, of if we don't know about it, we won't know what ideas there are. So yeah, I think the more we sort of you guys start using this feature and let us know what you'd love it to do. For example, Devon put quite a few bits of feedback in the beta testing. One of his was filters. So he was looking at Zapier parity, really. So he was sort of going, well, in Zapier, we would filter items based on certain data, and we would do multi-step processes as well. So they're both things that we can add to this. And obviously, by putting it into the automations area, we've got even more control than something like Zapier. So because it directly relates to the data and the web app and the fields and everything, there's probably a lot further we can go with it, especially when you think about like if you take an email, being able to do the trigger conditions prior to sending an email, we can essentially have the same concept but for an integration. So I think there's a lot that can be done. There's a lot of scope. We just need to know what the ideas are and where to focus the time, really. Cool. I don't think there was anything else to mention on that. It will be released very, very soon. That's probably the best time to really get started with it. We've said while it's in beta to only use it on staging sites, really, just as a test. I think it'll also be worth, really making sure you've got your setup right before putting it on a live site. So good to keep working with test sites, I think, until you're fully happy with it. From a cost perspective, we're still working on exactly how the mechanics of that work, but it'll be exactly the same as everything else. So usage based off effectively, we'll probably link API calls and integrations together. So it'll be the same kind of thing. And I've looked at it, and it's a little bit less than Zapier would be. So hopefully we want to help you be able to offer it as an alternative to Zapier. That's where we want to get to with it. So you should find that a customer doesn't need to pay for a Zapier account, and it would all fit under their Siteglide usage, let's say. But more to come on that. Good. Any other questions? Okay, so yeah, sort of linking this all up now into where I started with the roadmap. It's all underpinned by the new API work that we've been doing. The new API will be live as soon as we can, and it will then, the new home for the docs on that will be in the new docs area. So I'll show you the new docs, and very soon you'll see the API as part of that. So we've worked pretty hard trying to get the docs consolidated over to one place, but also then make the navigation, the usability of it as good as possible, especially for either getting started or at least like finding what you're after. So we've got this kind of concept now of like quick start guides. And it doesn't mean necessarily only for people new to the platform. It could be that you've just not done a certain feature before, or you've got new team members or whatever it might be. So there's these guides that sort of help you get started. I think a good example is the CLI. It used to be a very, very long-winded document with videos and links off to places and all that kind of stuff that I don't think it made you feel that you could get up and running quite very quickly. So we've tried to make it a 3-step process now, where effectively you follow the steps. If you get stuck, you go into sort of the troubleshooting area and those kind of things. So we've tried to make everything a little bit more accessible, but also dive into the detail where needed. On the left-hand side, it's all basically laid out as per the product. So by getting started, we've got the portal area, developer tools like CLI, Liquid, GraphQL, that kind of stuff, site builder, and then it goes into the sort of product left-hand side menu. So CMS, modules, web apps, e-commerce, CRM, and site manager and reporting. And again, most of them have some kind of quick start guide just to sort of show you how to get up and running, mainly from the admin side of things. So how to do the basics, and then diving into specific features as well. I haven't used it for a while. I think the last time I was probably demoing it, but obviously we do have the search feature and the AI search as well. So there's some questions that will come up with that will prompt. And all of these, when they look like this, I believe these are the question types. So if you click on that, it will write an answer for you. do test this out more. I use CLI. It'll give you results, and if it doesn't find a good result, then you can ask the question, and then it will write it for you. So give us feedback on that. If anything's frustrating, or if you think we can improve how we manage the docs and the search, let us know. There's definitely a lot more to add and improve here. E-commerce, I think, is probably the area that probably needs the most work. It's got a lot in there, but a lot of it's from the old version, and we still need to tidy that up a bit. So, but lots of the areas are completely new. Been quite a lot of work. Screenshots are up to date and new as well. I know that we had some missing from one of the old developer sites, so we're trying to go through and get those updated as well. Any questions on docs? Probably one of those things that you just need to use as you're trying to do something, but just make sure you go to the new docs site. With the new release of automations and the AI tools and everything, we'll be updating the links in admin. Currently, it'll still take you to either help.siteglide or developers, and both of them will tell you to move to the new one effectively. So the new home is docs.siteglide.com. Good. I think that's everything on that topic. Let me just move on quickly. Site builder, again, I won't spend too much time on this. We're probably going to do a workshop on this very soon. I keep talking about it, but I think there's enough different people I've been speaking to that are either just getting started or trying to do something a bit more complex, like build a portal site, or yeah, so I think it'd be good to get a workshop running on Site Builder, but there've been some pretty big improvements and releases, mainly layouts and some extra kind of features. So do check that out. If you're not using Site Builder, I definitely would recommend taking a look. We're getting to the point now where it's from I think there's no reason not to use it as part of the workflow. Like, it's totally customizable. It should save you a huge amount of time. There's not really any reason not to, but obviously, let us know what's stopping you if there's a reason. Matt, is there anything you wanted to add on any of the recent updates? Sorry to.
If you haven't seen it already, there is a channel specially for Site Builder in the agency support section, and that's where we post our updates mostly. We also have a changelog which should copy down the same thing. A lot of the updates recently are in the Flowbyte Pro theme. So the way that it works is that you get the Site Builder module itself in Marketplace, and that contains Flowbyte free theme by default, just so that it has something out the box. But there's an add-on to that called Flowbyte Pro, which is all the non-open source bits. And Siteglide doesn't make any money off that Pro element, but we just check that you've got the license to use it, and it's like a lifetime Flowbyte license. So yeah, so some of the new stuff you will need to sign up to Flowbyte and give us that ID, and we'll unlock it for you. But we find that a lot of people, when they just start out, don't use the Flowbyte Pro straight away, because there's plenty in the free version as well. Certainly once you're using it and happy with it, that you really need the Pro bit, just to give a bit more variety and a few more options. And just let us know if there is a layout from the Flowbyte website that you would like to use. You've got a bit of time before you need to use it, and we can add that in next.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. One of the recent updates is something called preview mode. So it's a bit hard to explain this one, but Tailwind compiles so that, for any that doesn't know, so that it gets rid of any CSS you don't need, which is brilliant for SEO and performance. The challenge for us is how we make things look correct if you don't have the right classes. So as an example, this is a pro layout, and if you didn't have this layout in your site saved, then if you compile the Tailwind, it won't have some of these classes, and it would look a little bit broken. So what we've got is preview mode, which essentially during development and potentially on live, although we'll talk about that another time, but during development, if you have preview mode turned on, it will essentially have all the fallbacks required for all of the standard and pro layouts. So if I click save on that, that all loads correctly. If we quickly just if we go back to the page template, and this is how you can manage it. You can either manage it when you build the template in Site Builder, or in here we've got this template build method preview. And Matt, you might have to remind me what I have to put it to otherwise.
Lowercase CLI, yeah. Or
again,
just
that will
nothing.
be in the docs. And if I save that, there's just this one change to determine how you want to run it. We go back to the home page. So in Studio, it will load how it would look on the site as well. So let's quickly just see. So you'll see that it's a little bit broken here, and then if we refresh the page. So that's what I mean. It just didn't have those CSS classes while you're building, and if you've compiled without certain layouts. So it's probably best during development just to have preview mode turned on. It just means that you and clients can build out pages really, really easily with all the CSS. And then when you're ready, you just can compile and turn it off again. Hopefully that makes some sense. If you need to Tailwind, we're definitely going to be doing a workshop on all of this kind of stuff very, very soon. On that, just to get an idea again, would some sort of workshop to go through Site Builder and Flowbyte specifically be of interest?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's understanding what it can do and how I can then explain to a customer how to do what it is. What we find at the moment is that Site Builder is great, but then we have to put a whole load of stuff in place to make it work for the client, so it looks like their website. Because of course, we're designing and bespoke building. But Site Builder obviously has its layouts, but we need those layouts to kind of look like the existing sites. It's fine for you can just about do a landing page on it or something like that. But yeah, it's a great feature to have, but obviously everyone you want the site to look like the site that you've designed and built. So it's pulling across the existing classes, I suppose, that we've developed in Tailwind and the existing CSS and pulling that through to Site Builder. So that then when client comes in and says, I want this block, this block, this block, it then renders on the page looking like it should do and not like the out of the box Tailwind layout, which is and fonts and everything else. So there's always a bit of work for us to tweak it so that it actually matches the site, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, that's really interesting because Site Builder predominantly is probably more a tool for you guys or developers and agencies than it is for the end client. Studio is probably the area where they would go to pull layouts in. Which
yeah, absolutely, and they'll
Builder.
pull layouts in, but those layouts have still got to look. Let's say I want a row or want a row with an image on. That's still going to be styled.
Yes.
To match the existing site as opposed to just being a block that comes directly from the standard Tailwind layouts.
Just to dig into that a bit more, we're talking about not just changing the variables in the Tailwind config, but also like changing the layout of sort of where things are in the DOM. And
it's not no, it's not the layout of where things are. It's the so it's pulling the font that's used on the site as opposed to the standard, Tailwind font. Which, whilst is very nice, doesn't match necessarily the font that we've used to build a site and design it. And it's pulling through like the raft of colours that are used, so that you have a standard palette.
Yeah. So the work
from.
So the work to do the styling is to do the rebuild in CLI of the config. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the idea with the preview mode is that it won't have those colors straight away and fonts, etc. But after you've done a few rebuilds, the likelihood of them dragging in a block which doesn't have one of your classes, it becomes less as time goes on. So by the time your site goes live, hopefully pretty much most of what they do will have a class pulled in. But yeah, that is still a challenge that we want, really. We want to improve. We want to improve the client experience, but you can hope that, like, I mean, at the moment, you can hope that a client could sort of build a page out and say it's ready. Can you publish it for me? And then you rebuild the CLI and it's there, which is a bit of a friction, but hopefully they can see what it would look like. Because at least the spacing is fixed and it's just waiting for those variables. But let's say if it's a button like this one and it's primary 700, you probably would have already built that primary 700 button to have the right color. And I think font is just a CSS variable. So I hope that once you've built CLI once, the font should mostly be there. Already.
It's more, yeah, absolutely. But it's more, after the site's gone live and we've handed it to the client, it's like, right, they want to be able to build their own pages.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where, without necessarily involving us, and that's where you get the whole drag and drop. We want the style of the page to be the same as everything else that has already been built.
Yeah, definitely.
It's trying not to involve us. I mean, yes, that will involve us at some point, but trying to involve us as little as possible. You see what I mean?
That's the last piece of the puzzle for us, really. We during staging and development, preview mode is great for that. But yes, we're still trying to look at the best solution for client building once live. But I think this little conversation has kind of proved that if we had a separate meeting to just go through any site builder questions, make sure the setup's right, make sure we've understood the challenges of actually using it and releasing it, would be good. So yeah, we'll get something set up. I think what we're going to try and do is make it relatively like free flowing and impromptu. We're not going to have, I'd rather have sort of regular things people can dip into and dip out of if they want to. So we might try and just do like a every 2 weeks, there's a meeting, turn up with questions if you want to. We'll do something with Site Builder, and then the rest is just free flowing. But obviously, as we go, we can tweak it and improve the format. Good. I didn't want to take up too much people's time on Site Builder. I think that covers everything there. Do test out preview mode if you haven't already. And then yeah, finally, before handing it over, yeah, I don't know if anybody's got any comments on the WordPress side of things. It's quite interesting.
Try not to get involved. It's my it's my general view on it. But,
yeah. It's I mean, it's always just an interesting discussion of sort of open source versus proprietary, and it's sort of basically turning out, from what I can see, that people are feeling it's not as open source as people might have liked. But yeah, probably just the main thing to mention is that just if you do notice people struggling with WordPress sites, we can maybe assist with our import tool. Do send over any sites you'd like us to run through it, and we'll give it a go. It's in progress at the moment. It's with a third party, so we're not doing the bulk of the work on that. Obviously, we're focusing on the roadmap, but happy to help if we can.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see an updated version. Having tested it once, it wasn't perfect by any means, and we probably still have to go through and strip out all the rubbish that comes across, in terms of, you know, transferring it to run on Tailwind as opposed to the rubbish that comes across from WordPress. And there were bits and pieces missing and to do with images and stuff, but you know, the majority of stuff, it was a starting point, and it was definitely good from that point of view. But yeah, I think it's definitely more to be done. I don't know, appreciate it's very difficult because there's certain things you can't pull, you can't get to.
I think just migrations generally are never going to be fully solved. Like they're not the right way to do things. So rebuild is always better. So I think if you're going to switch out to Tailwind anyway, it sounds like all you probably want it for is the data and the structure.
Very much so. Yeah. The data. If we get the data out, that's 3/4 of the battle. You know, the rest of it is doable. So yeah, it's getting the data out easily, especially if the client's lost their logins, which has happened, or no longer has access to the back ends, then it just becomes a front end scrape, and that's
exactly
that's a bit of a nightmare.
So while it's not automated at all at the moment, this is just a process that you run. What you get out of it is liquid files, GraphQL sort of mutations to add the data, and soon for web apps a YAML file to structure the data. So and assets separately. So effectively, you could skip the liquid files if you wanted to, knowing that you're going to rebuild it maybe with Site Builder or Tailwind or whatever, and just use the YAML and the GraphQL to get your data in there. So it's quite flexible in that sense, and I agree, leaving out the rubbish definitely makes sense. But yeah, it's not going to be. We're not expecting it to be a perfect. There's no perfect solution for this. But sometimes, as you say, WordPress is actually quite difficult to get your data out of. So getting it front end might be the only option, and this is where potentially we can help.
Could you use that workflow as an example for some of your sessions on Site Builder? Saying,
yes.
Here's a website, so this is how we would take it into Siteglide using Site Builder. So that
definitely.
process is really practical.
Sorry, Steve, it jumped a little bit. It definitely. The way I see it is you've got two options. One is migration, which is the quick but not great option, and two is rebuild. And if we can make the rebuild quicker, or almost as quick, maybe even quicker than the migration, by having a speedy way to get data and structure and a speedy way to build using Site Builder, then you've actually got a far better solution and hopefully not spent a huge amount of time on it. So that's something I really, really want to flesh out and help people with. So yeah, we'll definitely do a session on that. Good. Okay, over to you guys. I've talked a lot, so apologies. Did anybody have any questions? We haven't met for a little while, so feel free.
I just say I put a few things onto the roadmap over the last week or so. I just want to make sure that you've seen them, and they were saying the specific one was to do with it's been on the roadmap for about 3 years. It's to do with previewing pages. So
yes,
or previewing items. So essentially, you've got pages draft mode. There we go. So basically, they're a parish council, so they need to get approval on things, or there's the same in other companies or whatever. Somebody will put something together, they want to get it approved, they want to preview, and the same for us when we're building something. We don't necessarily want to send a live link to someone. We don't want to create a whole staging site just for one page. We want to be able to click a preview button and give a link, and that link is only viewable if you're actually have that link, so that it's not viewable from the front end. Google can't really crawl it, and we can't end up with then pages appearing that shouldn't be appearing for SEO and this, that, and the other. So
yeah, definitely.
I think
two things on that. Matt Jones and I discussed this a few days ago. Well, as soon as you commented on it, yeah. A couple of things really. Draft mode in general is something we would like to get to, and it would actually help with the whole Tailwind site builder discussion we were having just a few minutes ago, because compiling every single time doesn't make any sense, but having preview mode for draft and having compile for publish makes a lot of sense. So there's already a reason why we would want to do that. It's just, as always, priorities. The second thing is Matt had a solution to this, I believe, in the meantime, that might be worth talking about. Again, Matt, sorry, put you in the deep end, but
that's okay. So yeah, all the time, Site Gurus jumps onto people's sites, doesn't have time to make a staging site because it's just a very small change. So we tend to use like the URL to basically have a field in the field sort of mini preview mode temporarily while we work on something. So we put in the URL, a query parameter. I always use t equals t because it's quick to write. So > t equals t at the end of the URL. And then in Liquid, I just put an if statement for if context.params.t double equals quotes t. And then I write my mini preview mode within there. Of course, that's useful for developers. It's no use for the client. And so,
no use for the client whatsoever. That.
So it's the question then comes to dig into your roadmap post a little bit more. It would be really easy to just do. Well, sorry, I don't want to speak for that, but it would be quite easy to have a version. A preview mode where the password is the same on every page, and it's just a bit like that. It's just you always put preview equals true, and then it always shows the disabled page. But I can imagine that there's a problem there, because there might be many reasons why a page is disabled, and you don't just want to allow anyone to guess the preview link. Especially if it's the same all the time, there's more chance of someone guessing it. And you want a bit more fine-tuned control. So I guess my follow-up question to you is, how would you want it to be a different password per page? Is that important to your client? Or would you want to be able to have an option to say, this page is enabled or disabled, and if disabled, an option to turn on the preview mode for it, so it's not available for all disabled pages?
Yeah, that second version Perfect.
And would it be okay to be the same password for all pages? Or would you
Absolutely,
want-
yeah, because we
Yeah.
can ask them what it was if we can set it in the
Yeah.
back end, and they just share it amongst themselves, and then we can always change it if required. So
Thinking back to BC, you could do preview equals true or draft mode on any page, any disabled page, I think they had that. So yeah, sorry, I don't know if it's my connection. Apologies if nobody can hear me too well. But yeah, so on BC, I think you had the ability to do preview equals true. So that's kind of familiar for everybody. But I think if we take it one step further and give you a little bit more control over when you would want that to be available or not.
The
Yeah,
other
that'd be fine.
question is, I know pages is the most important thing, but would we ever want to have a page that was still live and have a particular bit of content within it which was not showing but to be previewed? Because
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the other use case is, you've made a change to the page, you need to give that approved before it goes live. However, the old page is still there and viewable from the front end.
yeah, because I guess in the
Yeah.
meantime, if you've got this stepping stone, you could create a copy of the page and disable that and work on that and then move it across. But it's not as smooth, I
No,
suppose.
no, it's not smooth.
Yeah.
We have a use case where we're providing marketing services to a couple of clients, and so we're writing blog posts, social media, and all those sorts of things. And sometimes they want to be able to preview the blog post before they're sent. And so we're using we create another field called draft or preview or whatever, and we've got some code on the page that will show that if they're logged in as a user, sort of thing. So I think it is. So
you're doing a custom field on the blog module or web app effectively.
yeah, and other modules and web apps, but mostly it's used on the blog one.
Because that's something I was going to mention is just until now we were talking about pages, but obviously it's exactly the same for web apps and modules and any kind of data as well.
Absolutely,
So, yeah. And that's a very different, well, we're dealing with a database item. So yeah, it's different work for us, but same concept, I think. You'd want to be able to turn off enabled, make it disabled, and have preview on or something like that.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's why we've had to use this other way, because we need the blog enabled, so a normal sort of user can see it, but we don't want the general public to see it. So it doesn't.
I think
we don't display it in the list of blog posts and all those sorts of things. It's yeah.
I kind of feel like the right solution is to do it properly and have proper publishing process, because we're only going to solve a few of the problems otherwise, I think, with these sort of workarounds. Because really, if we've got item history, really what you want to be able to do, I think, is have two different versions that are saved and viewable at the same time. I think that's all we really are looking for.
Like content's slightly different to a page. Yes, that would be true on a page, but content is you've just created it and the client wants to have a look at it before it's made live, and having a look at just the content, they're after more about what does the image look like, all the links work to the other places and all those sorts of things, and they're not inside Siteglide sort of thing. So
just the detail page.
Yeah.
Okay. But yes, definitely seen it, John. We've been discussing it. We'll think about it some more. In a way, I'd love to link it to the sort of the site builder tailwind problem as well, because it makes sense to solve as much as we possibly can. But obviously, it's trying to work out whether there's maybe a good short-term fix that we can give you immediately or very quickly versus doing it properly.
I'd much rather it was done properly.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They can wait, as they say,
Sure.
which is fine. I've got other things to do for them at the moment. So it just make like it's another feature that is available on other platforms and this, that, and the other, Shopify, etc. That would be really handy to have on here as well.
I think with where Studio and Site Builder's at now, I think we're getting close to having the kind of user-friendly, like end-user tools that we would want at least. But those kind of things, I totally agree, are missing. So if we can kind of fill those gaps, hopefully we're at a point where, you know, it's good for you guys to build on, nice and flexible, easy, quick, and has enough of the client features as well. Good. Anybody else wanted to bring anything up or questions?
What else did I have? Shipping weights on attributes would be
That
kind of handy. And that's a whole different kettle of fish to do with the whole shipping side of things on e-commerce. But
or just allow us to put our own fields in,
or as an extension of custom fields on e-commerce.
Yes. So yeah, obviously, if I just jump back to the roadmap quickly.
I know you had something on there for the roadmap, didn't you?
Yeah, so hopefully we'll focus on custom fields everywhere.
Cool.
Would hopefully be a good way to do that initially, because we've kind of already got this planned in. Do you think that would work?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Nick's just shouted across to me. He's out of his meeting now. He's just shouted across and said, "Yeah, custom fields everywhere, please," just to allow us to be able to do that kind of thing.
I mean, it's a big one for me. I just think we want to make everything as flexible as possible, and it's such an obvious one. So yeah, hoping to get back onto these, finish these kind of features ASAP. We just had to get the core stuff done first. So yeah, not a problem.
Cool. That's probably it for my list.
Yeah. Good.
Well, maybe. I think I have. Oh, I did add something about SEO, automatic SEO schema onto as a feature thing yesterday or the day before, which I think in theory should be quite straightforward to do, considering that we've already got a majority of the fields in the company information part of the site, and it's just putting a layout in place that automatically pulls through the data from that area, and you just expand that slightly just so it covers it. It's basically just a basic sort of company schema for Google. It just as it seems to be becoming more and more important that these things are in place, and for SEO purposes, that having it automatically done. And fine, we can then go in and add in product schema and this, that, and the other as a need to, but just as a basic, bit of data that Google can read and everything else can read and pulls it out. It would be quite cool.
Is that structured data, John?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, structured data. So I mean, it's fairly, I'd say exactly, it's fairly standard, I believe, on how it lays out. And then obviously we can then go in and add extra fields if and when required to add in extra bits and pieces. But things like company name, address, phone number, contact email, opening times, things like that you could just add in on the company information tab, and a client could do if required. If there's something else in there, we can then pull that through, because we don't generally use that company information section as a rule, but making it work for us would be quite cool.
So the structured data is where, like, you Google something, and instead of just appearing as a normal result, if it does appear, it appears with a particular layout because it's specific to a particular thing. Like in this case, a company, it gets a special company result with all the details. So that's exactly a nice thing.
Yeah, it's a very nice thing to have, and it's kind of thing that seems to be, it's been around for years, but it seems to be more and more important for SEO than it has been.
I think half the solution would be custom fields on company information. The other half, Matt, is that something we could just do as like a layout for Site Builder, or does it need something platform related?
I'm just thinking, would it be on every page, John? Do you know? I've not done the research recently. Or would it just be
Yes,
on the
yeah, the
homepage?
company, yeah, the overarching one would be on every page or on a template specifically.
Yeah, because we could
You
add
then
it to. Sorry.
that's right. No, carry on.
I was just saying we could add it to a site builder default template, uh, possibly. Although obviously company information is helpful to get that information in. But we could have kind of like empty ones that people fill in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
similar to
then
what you've got
on
for Google. You've got ones in there for Google and this, that, and the other, haven't you? So,
but then on like a blog detail page, you'd want the blog one instead, or as well as,
yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely. Yeah, you would do, and I think that's really is, yeah, that would be immense if that could be put in place. I mean, and obviously on the product one, you've got a product related one
Yeah.
in place for e-commerce products, and pulling the fields through. But yeah, that's the whole different kettle of
We
fish.
use the company information a lot, so you know, even I'm pretty sure we've even got it working in email signatures and those sorts of things. So that, you know, we've got to change the information in one place when a company moves or things like that. So
Yeah, that's really clever. And we build our own email sort of templates and whatever for people for workflows and stuff. But yeah, having the pull through the email signatures, that's quite cool.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, company fields, custom fields on company information, definitely half the battle. We'll chat about what we think we can do on the, I guess it would be templates and layouts side of things for structured data.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Just as and when we've gone without it for this long, but it'll be nice to have. We'll see Liz has voted for it as well, and Helen, so all good.
Yeah, I mean, anything related to SEO performance, that kind of stuff, we never want to be the limiting factor. So if it's possible, if it's something you guys can code, as always, it's not gonna be the top of the list. But if it's something that's actually really holding you back or holding a site back, then it should be bumped up.
Yeah.
And I think this is one that can massively, just help because it's more automated.
Absolutely, if it's automated and it saves our marketing guys, a couple of hours of time, and it's already in place and they don't have to worry about it. Especially if you product stuff and look stuff and it's already in place, then it just makes everybody's life so much easier, and also makes it easier for us to sell the system as a thing. It's like, that's already in place, that it does it, and you don't have to worry about it. All you do is fill these fields in, and it's all done. And, which is how we like things to be.
Sounds good. Cool. Anything else? Conscious of
I
everybody's
just
time.
didn't want to mention the cricket.
No, don't mention the cricket, Rocks. We're not talking about that. We're not mentioning the rugby. We won't mention the rugby either, will we?
I don't think we've got a team anymore.
And I'm not talking about football either after last night. It was pretty awful.
I think they're the West Pacific Islander team that plays in the green and gold now.
Yes, it seems to be, doesn't it? Never mind.
One of the players in the Australian side is the rugby side. Used to play Australian rules football with my son. So.
Oh really? Oh wow.
Yeah, he was a dickhead.
No, we're just rolling up. We're getting you rolling up for the Ashes next year. That's all. Just.
Well, we're looking forward to India coming here this year. So.
Yeah, we've got India next summer. So we're off to go and see that at the Oval in end of July next year. So that'll be good.
Lovely.
Shall let you know how it went when we get that far.
I'm
If
trying
I
to
can remember.
trying to work out what other games there are, John, but I can only think of the Southampton game last night.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, well, that was rubbish first half. Absolutely rubbish.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah,
Thanks,
we'll let you
Brad.
guys get on. Yeah, thank you everyone, and yeah, speak very soon.
Cool. Yeah, let us know
Guys.
when that let us know when that AI is released. That'll be quite cool. We'll get those
Yes,
guys
we'll
to test
do.
that.
We'll do a proper update of that full release. Yeah, it'll be very soon.
Cool, nice one.
Great.
Thank you guys.
Thanks,
Nice
guys.
to see you.
All right.
Yeah, good to see you.
Bye bye.